corn. And the annulars above can make it more fixative. Well, because the hot weather in the desert cities, for now, the plants need trickle irrigation supplement water. But the plants will, at the same time, the plants will have direct solar radiation. It means the water in the soil is evaporated very quickly. So the roots cannot absorb the water enough. Now this is the state of after using a corn. Although the way of irrigation has not changed, but the upper ring can partly block the radiation to the soil and the roots. So the plants can absorb more water. Now there is a video that shows from assembling to use. Okay, in the end, the application of sceneries of corn are extensive, like courtyard, urban, and suburban area. Now, in the end, I wish a corn can help a lot in urban green landscape and make a more sustainable world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you to presentation. It was actually a team project, wasn't it? He's running away. I'll ask him later on. Fine. Next sustainability project is a project called O, or U. It's a German thing, but I'll try it in different languages. Can I welcome to the stage, please? Project O. Come on, please. Welcome. Constance. All the best.
Hello, my name is Constance, and I'm going to present you my project O to make water drinkable. So first, why I decided to do this project is because of alarming number. Still today, it's 850 million people who don't have access to safe water. And because of that, each year, it's 2.6 million people who die due to disease related to non-drinkable water. It's no longer possible that people can't have access to such primary needs, such as water. So that's why I decided to do this project. So for that, I analyzed what was done with water and with humanitarian aid, and what were the limits of those. So first, I had to take consideration that humanitarian aid have consequences on the social, economical, and cultural condition. Because of that, donation system is not such a good solution because it makes people dependent on them. So, as the proverbs say, when a man is hungry, you teach him how to fish, you don't give him a fish. So that's why donation system is not a viable solution for the long term. Also, a problem with humanitarian aid is that because it's external help, it usually don't respect the local culture. That's why I set to myself some objectives for this project, so that the objects should be situated between design and DIY, that it should involve the population, that the aid must fit into the local economy and local context, that the aid must respond to the real needs of the victim and promote participatory approach, that the object should be available in open source and also use objects and materials available on site. That's how I arrived to O, which is a sustainable humanitarian help. I wanted my design to be as more basic as possible, to use materials that can be found and easily found, and that the manufacturing process could be easily done and do not require complex tools. So the structure consists of recovery elements, local materials, and a locally produced terracotta piece, which allow to involve the local know-how, because ceramics is universal knowledge, even if each culture has its own way to do it. So also the recovery elements allow to reduce the cost of the manufacturing process. So as you can see, I use simple materials such as wood, rope, fabric, ceramics, bucket, and terracotta collector. So this project is done for people who have access to water, but only unhealthy and contaminated water. So how works the filtration of O? So in order to eliminate the pathogen present in the water, I use low-tech, which are sun filter and ceramic filter. So first, the fabric filter the stones and the leaves present in the water. Then the sun filter filters out the largest pathogens. Once arrive at the bottom of the bucket, thanks to a hole, it will pass through the ceramic filter to eliminate the remaining pathogen present into the water, and finally arrive in the water collector. So to do the sun filter, they need sand and stone that they can pick from their environment. So they need to be sterilized. So you can pick the sand and boil the stones. The filter will be effective after 20-30 days, the time that the biolayer creates. And it's thanks to that that you can eliminate the pathogen present in water. As for the ceramic filter, it's also produced locally. It's made of clay and rice husk to make it porous. After the filter is processed to have a disc shape, and then stamped with the bucket and the water collector to make it fit better. So the structure can at least provide 24 liters per day, because the flow rate is between 1 to 3 liters per hour. The tripod will help to collect the water, but also to avoid contact with the ground and avoid the recontamination of the water. So for people regain their autonomy, this project is available in open source. The manufacturing instruction is provided. After, everyone is free to bring new ideas or solutions to the project based on the location of the product, because they might have access to more materials. They might have access to more materials than I used. So, because different location means also different resources. Oh, some problem. Okay. So all can evolve as needed. There can be alternative of construction. For example, you can replace the terracotta water collector with another bucket, but it can also be the contrary, with 2 water terracotta collector. Thus, the values of the project are DIY for all, local production, recyclable, economical, and repairable. And all that is allowed by the use of the low-techs, local materials, recovery elements, and the involvement of the local culture and population. Thanks.
Merci. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we are done now with the first category, or rather the second one, with the students. You've heard before that our jury members had in June this big session where they were streaming down the huge amount of projects to come up with the 10 that are here today during the ceremony. What we would love to do now is actually welcome on stage one of the jury members to tell us about that experience in June during the STAIN jury session. So welcome on stage, Phong, and we hear about this jury session finally.
Thank you, Paula. Thanks a lot. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Kronberg, and good afternoon, the finalists. So for those who don't know me, my name is Duy-Phong Phu. I'm with Braun since over 20 years. That's the reason why Oliver announced me like a family member. I'm leading the DeLonghi Braun Household Organization since 5 years, and today I would like to share with you some of the insights we had a couple of months ago as jury member. So the insights is like having a short inspiration. It was 2 days, so I tried to keep the best momentum to showcase what the discussion was and what was in our mind. So the criteria, like Oliver mentioned, was about the level of ideas. Does it fit to the theme of design for what matters? The design itself, the level of innovation, the level of quality, and all the content of aesthetics which is embedded in those concepts. Technology for sure, and the sustainability aspect. As a short reminder for the jury members as well, and for you who really select today the winner, that was in our mind when we started this journey of 2-day session. The clarity of the content and all that kind of factors which are important for us to select the finalists you have seen today, half of them, and you will see 5 more after my presentation. So the challenge for us was clearly to see, okay, out of the 3,000 concepts, to do a selection within 2 days, that was quite challenging. Oliver cut from 3 days in the past to 2 days. So that was his first announcement. And we said, oh my gosh, how can we manage that? But we are professional enough. We went through all these kind of concepts, and we did it. Yeah? So, but the key observation we all had was that every subject or every submission we have seen, the concepts were so different. And it was then not easy for us to really say, okay, what level is the best level? And all this kind of description was so unique in explaining the user experience, in explaining how good it is to change those kind of elements we found as weak points in our daily life. So therefore, the students and the finalists and all the submissions, we found those who are here today, they had this kind of free thinking without restrictions. So their concepts were showing this kind of open-minded. Another element was that we found that they really questioning the conventional. So questioning what happens right now and to project their concept into the future to be different and not following the mainstream. So that was one of the key aspects. With that, for sure, they provoked us to discuss within the jury sessions. So we have intensive discussions after we select. Out of the 3,000, we end up with, I don't know, 100, 150, to discuss each of these concepts on a very high level. So which one is really, really the finalist? So after those kind of provocation we found in the concepts, we thought about, so does the concepts break with what we know? Does the concept shows the courage out of the comfort zone? And those 10 winners or 10 finalists today, they deserve that, they did it. And I think that was, for us, also the, let's say, feeling that they feel responsible for the future. They want to give us, as designers, as companies, as, let's say, professionals in the industry who worked since years and doing always the same thing, to give us the impulse of thinking sometimes a little bit different and also be outside of the box. And they gave us this impulse, and for sure, in the same time, they stimulate us to think somehow different and to look to those concepts in a different point of view. I think with that in mind, I believe that all those finalists today, they wanted to innovate for the future. And that's the key part. So I would like to show you now a video why and how we select that. The point was that in those kind of discussions, the dialogues we had in the jury session, there were a lot of trust on the end that each of us had this kind of professional experience in the industry to judge and to vote the right finalists for today. The music, the sound is missing.
The Braun Prize judging process has been really fun because they've attracted talent from all over the world. Different continents, different types of universities, different types of young talent, and they bring that all to the table for us to look at, and that's been absolutely amazing.
For the last 2 days, I've been so amazed with the great work. I can see there is a lot of, ideas, new concepts to really address, to come up with solutions to make people's life better.
This Braun Prize is very selective, which I really like. They don't give many awards to so many people, and it's always keeping high quality, and also surprised the way the students present their works. There's a lot of actual research behind them. It's really nice in presentation. They're using many ways, for example, nice videos.
We are constantly looking for, let's say, young talents for the industry, and that's what I really like on the Braun Prize, that we are in touch with young talents and other students. And that is exactly where I, let's say, see the future of the design world.
One of my takeaways is, there are a lot of things that they address in the area of social responsibility, health, concern about the future of the world. And so I was overwhelmed with the impression of how responsible these people are, what really is important for them.
It has been challenging this time, and in a great way, because we have seen so many entries. Quantity doesn't mean quality, and that's why we were happy to have the quantity, because usually then there is percentage-wise also a higher chance of better things, and we actually have seen them. We have right now the problem of which one is the best one and what combination is, of course, award-winning or worth winning an award.
So, thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Phong. It's actually very, very, very stimulating to see the challenges that the jury members had to go through to select from 3,000 projects, only the ones that you see today. Here we now move on to the next category, and is the young talent. So I would love to welcome on stage the next project that is, so that we can kick off finally the next stage. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Peter, and I'm here to present my project. ASHA is monitoring low birth weight babies in remote rural parts of India. About 7.8 million babies are born with low birth weight, that is under 2.5 kilograms, in India each year, with almost a 20% mortality rate. That means 1 out of 5 babies don't make it to the age of 5. The reasons being is malnourishment, especially with the mothers, unawareness due to lack of education, and poor accessibility due to bad infrastructure to the nearest hospital. And also there are other factors like poor hygiene that leads to sicknesses and illnesses when you're pregnant, that lacks or know how to do so. So just by doing that for 2 years, the mortality rate of that village went down, of the babies, went down from 25% to 2%. That is almost 400 babies' lives saved. So I was wondering, what if the ASHA workers could do the same thing as the right way, just like that of the health professional? Because first of all, measuring the basic vitals in the rural sectors, it's not common. Second of all, due to illiteracy, these women, they don't know how to use these equipments. Most of them don't know how to read and write either. So, and also other practical issues such as hygiene and harsh weather plays a big role in affecting this whole system. So what happens that if they would do the same, this would really affect the credibility and the trust that they have already gained from the rural community, because they would end up referring the wrong patients to the local hospitals. So that's why my concept I present to you is ASHA. It's a simple tool, handheld device that is powered by solar batteries. It's got two basic functions. It measures the weight and the temperature of the baby, and it's easy to carry around. It's got solar cells in the on the display, so there's never a need to charge this thing, and there's almost no maintenance. The buttons in here are also concealed, and they're soft touch buttons to avoid any sort of bacterial or dirt accumulations. And hence, it also becomes very easy to clean, especially in conditions like that. And at the back side, you have a non-touch IR thermometer, which you can just place it on top of a baby's forehead and get the temperature. And this technology exists today. But this would be really beneficial because this also avoids cross-contamination. And at the bottom, there is a hook. In this hook, you can attach a blanket, and you can weigh the baby and get the feedback on the display here. So to talk about a little bit about the blanket, as you can see here, it's a personal blanket that I call, and this is distributed by the hospital during the birth of the baby to the mothers. Now, this acts as an individual personal document of the baby, because people living in such conditions, in huts and so on, they don't have anything with them. They don't know how to read and write. So this visual diagram on the blanket really helps them to keep a track on the baby's well-being. So as you can see, there's a height chart that has been imprinted on the wall. Sorry, on the blanket, and it's got a growth chart on it, and the number of visits that the ASHA would make when she comes to their home to monitor these babies. So on a typical year, as you can see, the ASHA would visit the mother. She would check the personal blanket. She would mark her visit just with a dot, and she would place the baby on the blanket and measure the height, and then she would mark it on the chart as well. Then she would measure the temperature, and then she would mark a dot at the right place, because these people don't know how to read and write, but they can surely read numbers. So they just have to mark a dot in certain places. And finally, she hooks on the blanket and weighs the baby. And then she marks it on the growth chart, and depending on which category, if it's the red or green or the yellow category, she would counsel the mother accordingly and say that, hey, your baby's not doing good, you need to really go to the hospital. So in that way, the ASHA also has an accurate feedback that she can give, and she gets the trust from the mother, and at the same time, she gets accurate results as well. So this really bridges the gap between the hospital and the rural community. So basically, the buyer would be the state government of India, and it would be distributed through to the ASHAs, through the local hospitals for free. And the benefits, it gives you accurate feedback, adds credibility to the ASHAs, and more of all, decreases child mortality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. The second project in the Young Talents is called Instant. Andreas, can I welcome you to the stage, please?
Hello, my name is Andreas Munk, and I'm very glad to be here. And the topic I want to talk about to to you about is we have way too many cars. There are 45 million of cars on the streets only in Germany. And we all know the consequences. It's air pollution, it's noise pollution, and it's lack of health. And what can we do against that? We should ride more bike. It's very easy. There are many bikes. Anyone I know has a bike. And biking is healthy, it's environmentally friendly, and it costs almost nothing. But there's a thing I always worry about with the bike, and this is it has no trunk. I have nothing to transport. So just imagine, it's a sunny afternoon, and the supermarket is only 2 kilometers away. So you decide to get your stuff for your family in the next supermarket by bike. But then you think, what about juggling some shopping bags on your handlebar with a backpack on your shoulders and water crate on your rear rack of the bike? You don't feel like it. So, but I really wanted to use my bike for transportation. And, oh, okay, that's the bike with the handlebars and the shopping bags. And so I looked, what can I do with my bike to transport some things and stuff. And one option is bike panniers. Bike panniers are bags that are attached to your rear rack. They're very practical if you have to transport smaller items, but they have no high loading volume. Then there are cargo bikes. Cargo bikes are very, very great. They have a high loading capacity, high payload, and you can take them wherever you want. But there's a disadvantage. You have they are very big and they're mostly very expensive. So there's another option. It's a bicycle trailer. Anyone knows? And it's very useful, but it's mostly bulky and heavy, and you have to have a place to put it to. So what I did, I thought about what can I do to take all those products and put them together to thing that does the things I want to. And I wanted a very compact device that is available at any time, so you are very flexible to use it anytime. You have a high loading volume, and it should be usable with every bike. So now here's a video of what I did. It goes now. So this is it. And I don't think the bike will ever ersetzen. I don't think the bike will ever replace the car, but I think it can do it from time to time, and I hope Instant will help you to choose if you drive car or bike in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Actually, as a bike lover, the project looks very, very stunning for me. Third project that we are going to be presenting now, it's Colo. And he promised me that he was going to stay down the stairs because he's so tall that I will look like a dwarf. So keep the promise. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, hello. My name is Matusz, and I'm excited to be here to present you my concept of shoes designed for children, made for improvement of feet health issues. So at first, it's really interesting to think about how our surrounding has changed in the past centuries, how our style of life, how our daily activities have changed. And when speaking about shoes, it's very interesting to think about how the surfaces that we walked on actually changed. So there's one friend of mine, Martin, and once when we were walking down the street, I noticed that there's something just a little bit off by the way he walks. And when I looked at his shoes, I noticed something like this. So as you can see, the soles are really grinded on the right side, right outer side. So then I tried to find out a little bit more about this topic, and I found out that 75% of people will experience, over 75% of people will experience orthopedic issues during their lives. Now, there are two main things that we need to know, that these issues usually start in early age. They can be inherited, they can be acquired, and that if they are not treated, they can actually end up in something more serious like disabilities, pain, and so on. Now, a lot of these issues are actually connected to foot and ankle conditions. It can be either that they are symptoms or causes of these other issues. So more specifically, these issues are flat feet, supination, which my friend Martin probably has. Then we have pronation, and then we have some other issues. Well, and that's what led me to design a concept. Actually, there's one more thing to say. The key to managing these issues is their early detection and consistent management of the treatment. And this led me to design the concept, which is called Colo. And it's a shoe designed for kids that is intended to detect and correct these health issues. So at first, you will probably notice the special sole. This sole is actually produced by layering different colors of plastics. And by wearing it down, these colors reveal a gradient that you can later inspect. From the outer side of the sole of the shoe, you will probably notice that it looks that is a little bit more on the conservative side of the spectrum. So any shoe that is currently on the market could include such a sole. And then there's a little bit of hint of the function of the shoe on the bottom side, where you can actually see the colors as a visual cue to know what is the order of colors on the sole. Now, regarding the sole, it was really fun designing the sole because I could actually choose if I want to go more scientific way, more funny way, more abstract, more defined. And finally, I got inspired by how materials wear down in the nature. So we see like a history of the material. Function-wise, there are three main hard points that needs to be respected, and they are mirrored in the design. That is under the toes, in the midfoot, and in the hindfoot. Well, let's see how the healthy foot development looks like. I think it's quite expected that we go from light blue all the way to the red, to the dark blue, and what is interesting is the white, which signalizes that the shoe should be replaced, because they should be replaced quite often when the child is small, and that the sole actually lost its flexibility. We can also see the order of the colors at the bottom right side. What is more interesting is when the issue is detected. So you start by light blue, and then you go all the way through these color gradients, all the way to the white one, and then you see high probability of supination. However, the whole product experience is not limited to the shoe. There is a Colo app that asks, why should we have app for everything? Well, the gradients can become a little bit indistinguishable, and especially when you treat it, you can track your progress of treatment during the sole wear. Now, the key part of Colo is actually, of the Colo app, is actually scanning the sole. So like once per month, you take the worn-off shoe, and you take a picture, and let the app analyze it. So maybe it will take a while. And the result is a possible cause, a possible issue of pronation. Now let's go back, and what are some other features of the app? The key part of the treatment, what I was told, actually it was emphasized to me, is active exercise. Well, in the app you can find instructional videos or instructions in written form how to do them. However, what is the key part of the concept is the 3D printed insole that is generated by the app. Then it is 3D printed possibly somewhere on the other side of the world, and then delivered to the customer. This can also have variable thickness and density, which is like a feedback to the issues that were detected. To summarize it, first you wear and walk, you detect problems, then you analyze with the app, that's the analysis part, and then you treat it. You consult with the pediatrician. The main part, again, are the exercises, which are later supported by the custom-made insole. And then you can track the progress and repeat the process until the children grow out the problem. More about the context, I think it's a really interesting idea to think about this material wear, because in a way it applies statistics, but in a dynamic kind of way. It's not a laboratory exercise where you just measure something while the kid is standing. You can see the history of the kid walking, actually, in the material. Another thing is that we could possibly collect a lot of data if we had a lot of customers, a lot of children wearing these shoes. And what is interesting that this data is passive, which is a very actual topic, actually, because you collect the data without harming anybody's privacy, especially with such a sensitive topic as children. And then you could use this data for research. It is also an analog solution combined with interactive elements. Well, all in all, Colo is a concept of sneaker designed to detect and help to correct ankle and foot deformities. And it also uses interactive elements as smartphone app and 3D printing technology. And maybe one thing to add, that Colo is also a product with a message that everybody is different and that it's nothing to be ashamed of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matus. So we have actually completed the Young Designers section for the first part. Now we have the 2 finalists for Sustainability Award. I'd like to welcome to stage for his project Filter, Simon. Round of applause. Go.
Right, hello everyone. My name is Simon. I'm an industrial design engineer from the company Creax in Belgium. And here we combine research and creativity to enable technological innovation. So that is exactly what you'll see in this presentation today. So if there's one topic that matters these days, and that's all over the media right now, is the plastic soup. And if you're talking about plastic soup, chances are that you're thinking about plastic bags and bottles suffocating sea life. However, microplastics are actually a very important part of this problem that's mainly underexposed. So microplastics are actually defined as all plastic particles smaller than 5 millimeters. This includes microbeads, small shreds, and fibers. So if we take a look at the composition of this mass, we see that 90% are actually fibrous materials. More particularly, we're talking about polyester and rayon fibers. So I don't know if you're familiar with these materials, but these are actually the main materials used in synthetic clothing. And that means that the source of this problem is actually very close to all of us. Each time we wash our clothes, thousands of microfibers are washed away to end up in the ocean. To give you an idea of the size of this problem, a city like Berlin produces the amount of microplastic fibers equivalent to 500,000 plastic bags each day, just through household washing machines. On the other hand, the effects are also quite shocking. Mussels and oysters are very well known for their filtering properties. And I can tell you that, especially in Belgium, we really love our mussels. So it's really sad to know that by now, mussels all over the world contain small plastic particles. And the effects, although the effects on humans are still largely unknown, we do know that toxic chemicals tend to bind to these particles and cause harm, especially to smaller organisms and plankton, effectively undermining the base of the food pyramid. So I think it's time to act now and to take this problem by the root. And the solution is actually quite simple. The only thing we can do is to add a filter to our washing machine. This filter can be really simple. It consists of two parts. You need, of course, filter material to trap the fibers, and some buffer container that can help you contain and drain the water away. So, as I set off to design this product, I started by building a very rough prototype in less than 10 minutes. And that's the exact moment that I realized that if I can do this, anyone can do this, with almost no materials in virtually no time. So therefore, Filter is not a product, but it's an open source DIY ID. It doesn't require any development, it doesn't require any investment, and it really takes this problem at the source. So, the only thing that's needed right now to make an impact immediately is to communicate and spread this ID. And in fact, this very stage, this Brown Prize event, is already a very powerful platform where we can start sharing this ID. So I would like to end this presentation with a short video that demonstrates how easy it is to share an ID nowadays using modern media.
Today we're going to make a simple filter that adds to your washing machine to filter out the plastic fiber particles that would otherwise end up in the ocean, adding to the plastic soup. It's quite simple to make and it uses cheap and widely available materials. The three items you will need are some kind of container material, a filter of course, and some fastener material to attach everything together. For the container you can use something like an old jug, a bucket or a flower pot, or even just a normal bottle. For the filter you can use something extremely simple like an old stocking, but in this case we're going to use some more efficient material we found at our local hardware store. To attach the filter you can use a metal wire, some zip ties, but we are going to use a metal wire that we can reuse multiple times. The first step is to cut the bottle. We're not going to cut all the way through, but we'll leave the lid on for splash protection. If you have a tubular filter like this one, we first have to close the filter. What you need to end up with is a filter bag that's open on one end and closed on the other. Now the only thing we need to do is assemble everything to the outlet of the washing machine. So this is the result of just one washing cycle.
Yes. So as of right now, anyone here can start building their own filter to add to their washing machine and make us an impact right now and help us fight microplastics in our oceans. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Last project for today. Let me welcome on stage the project Y-Frame and give him the stage for closing, almost, the afternoon.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So I'm going to start. Go ahead. All right. Let me welcome and this afternoon. I would like to talk to you about my project called Wireframe, which is basically an emotional product that got inspired by a chap called William Kamkwamba, who was actually a 16-year-old illiterate boy from Malawi who managed to teach himself how to build windmills from scrap that was laying around his area, and that actually helped his village go through like a pretty big drought. So, you know, I thought that going along the lines of designing for what matters, starting to help people who can make this much impact would be like, you know, a good place to start. So I aimed my project to villagers and people in developing countries who don't have access to, you know, efficient electric grids. And it turns out it's almost about 1 billion people with this problem, which is, you know, a pretty big number. So I went out and checked what are the biggest problems that these people face because of the lack of electricity. First of all, of course, the lack of lighting. So if the sun goes down, your day is over, basically. And the other one is the lack of communication outside your village, which is, you know, which is like a big drag to the free flow of information. So for this, I figured that I would like to develop and spread the know-how of low-cost and high-impact generators, for which I made up 3 things that they had to be, you know, designed around. They had to be low-cost, they had to be simple, and they had to be desirable for the villagers. For being low-cost, I actually chose to do windmills because there are no fuel required. They are easily built, and you can use upcycled materials that you found in your area, as William did. For simplicity, you don't really need any special tools to build these windmills, and if something gets broken, you can just fix it with duct tape or something. And the desirable part, as we have already heard from different projects about local culture and not helping from the outside too much and making self-sustainable systems, it has to be able to be become part of the local culture, and it has to, you know, mimic some sort of this Western, cool-looking wind turbines. Other words, it has to be cool as well. So, but we can't start from, you know, the styling part. We actually had to build up from the energy source. For this, there are basically 2 different ways we could go. One is bicycle dynamos that can be often found in bicycle cemeteries and, you know, basically any scrap heap around the world. The other one is also scrapped DC motors from tools that you can use, have partnership with companies like Bosch who develop this products with DC motors, or, you know, other companies come to mind that are producing electric motors. Then you build up with the structure, which is 3D printed in this case, which gives you a chance to adapt your wind turbine to the local area and, you know, what you have in your local area. Then there are some other bike parts and plumbing parts that are easy to find. The mast, which can be any sort of tube, it's like can be plastic or basically bamboo as well, and the whole cover and the blades, which can also be made flat pack. They can be stylized, they can be printed on, and they can be different materials as well, from plastic sheets to treated paper. So this is the windmill itself, but between the windmill and the low-cost appliances, you have to develop some sort of an electrical component as well, which holds the batteries and changes the electricity to be more efficient. But thankfully, it's a pretty cheap thing. There are solutions on the market which are easy to obtain. But if you want to build yourself one, it's also pretty cheap to do. But so the biggest question still, as we have the product, is the service behind it. How do you make like a system, a self-sustainable system, where you can produce these wind turbines and distribute them along the locals? Well, first off, you utilize big cities and local governments. You supply them windmills and teach them the know-how that's necessary to build and maintain these windmills. Then you go ahead and gradually teach them how to adapt the windmills to their local stuff they can build their windmills from. And in the end, you encourage people to build their business there locally on top of this stuff, so they can manage to adapt and personalize their windmills to that local place they have, because that's sort of the key point, that if you can make your project be loved by the people, it will become self-sustainable. Thank you very much for your attention.
Fantastic, Ben. Thank you, sir. I'll pass this down to my pocket. You can stay on the stage if you like.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You're welcome to. Get the gentleman here to move the fan away. It's warm. It's been a long afternoon.
It's better than before.
It's cooled down. But I think I would love to give one huge round of applause for those of you who have been here last year at the 2015 Brown Prize. I really would like to acknowledge with a huge round of applause the level of quality of the presentations and the ideas we've just seen over the last few hours. So a big round of applause to all the people who took the time to present. And actually, before casting the votes, we've got an opportunity now to speak to each of the designers.
There is that one opportunity.
Sorry, after you.
No, after you.
After you. I'd like to welcome you on the stage, if that's possible, please. Now over to you again.
We've got all of them on stage now for you, and you've got the opportunity to ask the questions. If you've got doubts, I'm not sure if you've taken notes throughout the presentations, but you have the opportunity. So we've got some mics going around, and you can raise your hand and really give that opportunity to them to maybe explain some parts of the presentation that they haven't been able to. So if you want to raise your hand, please, we have the mics, and that is one opportunity for you to get clarification. Yes, please. Get closer.
Let me get out of the way.
We are not contagious yet.
Move on, please.
Good.
All right, so first of all, guys, congratulations. This is amazing, and hearing you all is very inspiring, so thank you so much. My question is for Wim, actually, and the question is that we are talking about a money prize here. What would it mean for the project? What would be the next step?
So, is it?
Get it closer.
Okay,
yes.
Wow. Wow, so first of all, well, the prize itself would mean a big, it's a huge thing for us, obviously. But second of all, I think that for now we don't really have future plans. But as you saw, the prototype that we built is actually pretty much functional just yet. So we believe that this product could translate into something that is actually manufacturable at ease, actually. So it would be definitely a good start. And who knows? Maybe we get asked. I think also the big thing is that we could get some exposure, and maybe some other companies would also like to approach us with this. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Questions in the room? At the back first, Jeremy.
Yeah, I have a question for Pluvo. There we go. Sorry if you touched on the, but I'm thinking of the appeal to brands to take that advertising space. So it's very clear that the potential locations are amazing. But what kind of feedback or first impressions have you gained from big brands to actually say, yeah, that's the kind of quality of execution? You spoke a little bit about the resolution that can be achieved. What kind of direction have you had from them that it really is appealing to them to make that kind of investment for such an out there technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. At the moment, we're working with a company called Kinetic, so they're the sort of go-between between the brands and the media owners, which would be the Pluvos. And their feedback so far is that not to basically try and copy what's already out there. Brands are getting a bit sick to some extent or bored of just repeated digital screens on the side of a road, and perhaps try and present a different opportunity. So rather than just the standard 6x4 sheet, which is typical at the moment, we can present a different, more engaging, more sort of environmental, as in, what's the word I'm looking for? You know.
We can give it doesn't just have to be advertising, so it could be, we can also give feedback on the
the pollution remediation capabilities, but what I mean it could be more immersive. So instead of it just being one standalone unit, you're looking more at a site, and you're taking the whole site and what Pluvos look like in that area into account, rather than just the single digital image that you might be displaying. So it gives a bit more creative license to the brands that we would want to work with them, because we don't want this to be like in your face, flashing lights. It's more subtle sponsorship and sort of sponsorship of an area. So yeah, that's the sort of model we were trying to pursue. And they're, Kinetic think that's an exciting way to go forward with this, and would be as attractive to a brands as what's already out there, and potentially even like a premium advertising service.
And especially bearing that in mind, we wanting to work with councils as well, so that our devices would be sympathetic to the surroundings.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Adil, I believe you had a question.
Does this work?
Yes,
yeah.
it works.
My question is for Asha. You talked about bridging the gap between healthcare and social workers and the home. So do you have plans to take that to other governments and other countries where the income status is the same, the problem also exists?
That's a good question. I definitely, for now, this project was solely focused on the situation at the moment in India itself. And India itself is a very big country, and every state has its own problems. So there are ASHA workers throughout all the states across the country, and almost 1 million of them. And they're still less in number. So, but the thing is, every state has got its own health budget. And at some places, the ASHA workers can do a lot more than the other states. So this, I would say this is a start, and from here, there are so many other possibilities. But when you talk about the other countries, I definitely thought about it, because I once was talking with another company that was dealing with medical equipment, and they do a lot of similar projects with global health in Africa as well. And they told me that it was a bit surprising that the findings were very similar to that of what I had done, so which was a good confirmation. So I would say definitely, to some extent, this can be, the horizon is pretty broad, I would say. So it's definitely a possibility for expanding into different countries where the need is pretty similar.
Great.
I hope I answered the questions.
Any more follow-up questions?
Thank you. I have a question for Filter. Because I really like the project and also the idea. I think the key point of your project is also the communication. I was curious to know how with which instrument you communicate your project, if you have, I don't know, YouTube channels, or if you make different videos. instruction, because when I saw the video, my first impression was like, cool, I want to do it, but yeah, I wanted to know where it's possible to find information.
Absolutely. So yeah, as you're saying, it's all about communication. It's all about creating this awareness all over the world, I would say. So this video, indeed, is it's not up on YouTube yet, but we will be placing it on YouTube probably tomorrow, maybe even tonight. And we would like to inspire definitely other creators, other fabricators, designers also to keep making new plans and improvements on this concept and to share them with the world in a similar way. Also, it can be YouTube, it could be Instagram, all these modern communication media these days. It's a huge opportunity to create awareness and to make an impact.
There's one over there.
I was struck by the presentations. I mean, I think 3 systems deal with filtration, which is very interesting for me as an industrial designer, cleaning the environment. But I was interested in particularly O, and did you do any testing of the viability of the filtration system?
Not yet. But it's already existing system proved like they're efficient, like they work. But the brand price is also a way for me to continue and to do the prototype, like with the money to keep continuing this project. Actually, that's why also I applied. But the filter are actually already existing, the low-tech filters, so it already proved like their efficiency.
Any other question?
There's one at the back there. Last question, maybe? Yep, please.
Yeah, I have a quick question for Colo.
Thank you.
Obviously, in the children's footwear market, it's absolutely huge and incredibly competitive, and it's probably the product up there that faces the most stiff competition for all the options available. So, again, apologies if it was mentioned, but do you have an indication of the selling price band that you might target? Because I think the value consideration is going to be really acute in that particular arena.
Are we talking about the selling price?
The selling price, correct, yes.
I believe that would have to be, we are still speaking on the concept level, and there would need to be a huge amount of development actually included to get this to the market. So that would probably get into the price, so to say. It would be reflected in the price. It wouldn't be sold for the same amount of money as you can buy any other shoes. No. On the other hand, there is this there's this business model opening up that the company could be making money also on providing the soles. So maybe the initial investment into the shoe could be lowered, which could be later compensated by the actual cost of the sole.
But there's no particular price band that you would aim for as a target, as an aspiration?
Yes.
And what is that?
The target? So if we have a common specialized orthopedic shoes for children now, moving around 80 euros, 50 to 100 euros maybe, let's make a bigger range, then let's say this shoe could have been priced at 100 roughly, maybe somewhere in the top of it.
Okay.
Or I could actually imagine it could be priced really similarly to the current market, and then you could make some money on the soles.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Great. Thank you.
Good questions. One round of applause again for the great answers as well.
What we have now is we are going to set up and casting the votes. So again, You've got in your hands the future of all of them, actually, because they will win a prize nevertheless. But again, there is going to be some pride of winning the first and the gold for each category. So it's in your hand now, and we're going to have now 2 timings that is supposed to be given to you. The first one is the casting of the vote. The papers you've got in hand, they need to be in one of those boxes by 4:30. Hopefully we all have the same time, and it's in 18 minutes' time. Next, it's 5:20 is when we come back here for the rest of the ceremony. In between that, we're going to have something for you, which is the different visit that we're going to be taking you through. The Brown Collection, depending on your choice, or the design department.
And please do take note. There is a tour starting basically directly after you've cast your vote. You need to dash off to the tours. And please also join the tour that you ticked when you registered. That will help us ensure that people are safe and the groups are kept at a manageable size when moving through the complex here.
Yes, please.
I do have a logistical thing. There are several cars parked out the front of the house here on the parking spots in the driveway. If one of those is your cars, can you please remove it slowly, carefully, and park in the actual parking lot up the back? That would be great.
We don't want to do the supermarket and read in the plates, so...
Yeah, that comes later. So, and for those of you who have not chosen to go on one of the tours, please feel free to grab a drink, have a rest, grab some fresh air. It's cooled down a bit now.
Yes.
And we'll see you later on at 5:30.
And also, if you want to talk to the jury members yourself, after you finish and you look at all the projects, the jury members are going to be standing there and they will welcome all your questions, hopefully.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you later.